You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Yeah, it is January 24th, 2023, and we are here live from the Pace Radio Network and cbgtv.com. We are bringing you the Mushie Moment here with myself, Reverend Cindy Howell, and my co-host, the fungalicious Steve Mather. Good afternoon, Steve.
Good afternoon. How is your day going today?
Oh, the more I get to say fungalicious Steve, the happier I am.
Oh.
Well, I mean, it's a great name. You showed up in here with it, what was it, yesterday or something, or a couple of days ago, and I mean, I laughed my
I have no idea
end
where
off.
it came from, but it made me laugh. So
It did. It made me smile, so I kind of stuck with it, and I'm really glad that you put the name up there again today. We have a pretty amazing guest coming our way today.
we do. And you have your own personal relationship and healing journey with him.
I do. You know, he is my my facilitator when I went on my spirit medicine retreats. He is the gentleman that basically held my hand for a few days and got me through it. And the second time was a little scary. So I mean, the first time was scary just because I had no idea what I was going for. And the second time, the spirit medicine decided to kick my ass, and I'm really glad that I had the help there that I had. Because I'm not sure if I would have gone for the second or the third ceremony.
Yeah, that is one thing about a lot of the spirit plant medicines is, you know, you go in there for healing, and some people have this illusion that it's fun. And their journeys and their work. I'll say that right now.
Absolutely. I mean, like, and I try to tell people that, I mean, you may see me smiling afterwards and extremely thankful for what I went through, but don't ever doubt that it was hard. Yeah, but fantastic. And, you know, that being said, I mean, the gentleman that we're talking about that's here today, of course, is Garyth Moxey. A lot of you may remember me bringing up his name quite a few times as I went through this. But Garyth Moxey of Inner Realm Center is with us today, and I'm really excited. I know you are too.
Me too.
Yeah, I know you are. So let's bring him in.
Let's do that.
Hey, Garyth.
Hi, guys.
Good.
Nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
We couldn't have the show without having you on as soon as we possibly could.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, definitely the top of my list when Steve and I decided that we were going to do this. The first person that popped into my head was you to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. How are you both doing today?
I'm pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Yeah. Life has its trials and tribulations, some technical stuff, but we find ways of working through.
Sure.
Hey, just off the top, how was your past week between, because you help and facilitate with so many people, and actually the past 2 weeks with the solar flares, that full moon thing in there. How did you find things?
Well, we actually have been taking a break from work. We had a big workload through November and half of December. And so, yeah, actually haven't been doing anything. So in answer to that, Steve, haven't really noticed much, to tell the truth. Nice. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I found a lot of people in my circle ended up doing a lot of struggling through.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a hard couple of weeks. For sure.
Yeah, no, we've just been taking a little bit of downtime and kind of.
I believe that's cataloged as self-love.
It is.
Yeah, well, you know, you can't go all the time. It's part of this work is taking time to reboost and stuff, and we're always a little bit jacked after a long work stint, and then it takes a little bit of time to decompress from that, and that took a couple of weeks, and now we're sort of kind of relaxing. We just got back from Trout Lake and taking Millie for a walk, doing a couple of laps there and stuff. There's a bit of sunshine today, which is the kind of the first we've seen in a little bit, so it's been
Nice.
taking advantage of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you know, and that's what we're talking to you about today is what you do. Like, I mean, the reason why you have to take a break is the work that you do is it's taxing. You know, you're helping people deal with their innermost demons and fight them. And that's got to be hard.
Yes, it is in some respects. But in a lot of respects, like we are the observers. In real terms, it's the people that come and work with us that do all of the hard stuff. You know, they're the ones who are actually taking the medicine, and you know we're doing our part. We know when to give medicine, when to not, when to take breaks and stuff like that. But the person that's receiving the medicine is really doing all of the hard work. But yeah, there's an aspect of energetic, if you will, when you're kind of holding a container for people to move through. That does drain energy in certain ways.
Yeah. And you need time and you know, to take for you guys. And I know via personal experience and knowing you that, I mean, you tend to drop one patient off, you know, at 10 o'clock in the morning and say, you know, let us know how you're doing. And we send you with blessings and love. And then you take a couple of hours, and by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you're picking up the next patient to bring them in. And that's kind of your life.
Sure. But yeah, we go through spurts like that, and you know, we have times to work, and so we tend to throw ourselves in head first, and then work in a kind of a block. And the last block was quite a long one. Hence, that's why we're taking a break now and catching up and stuff. But it can be a little bit like that. But we do make sure that we take our downtime because, like as I was just saying, it's really important, you know, to regenerate and stuff. And
Yeah. So you are you're formally educated in psychedelic medicine.
Yes, I have done a few courses, and I'm actually a part of another course at the moment. I did a fundamentals of psychedelics, I think back in 2015 or 2016, which was 180 hours here on the Gulf Islands. And then in 2001, I started the synthesis program, which is a year-long psychedelic practitioner program. And because of COVID, things got a little messed up. We were to go to Holland for a 10-day immersion, and we couldn't do that in that first year. And so it was a year online, and then we had a bit of a break. And then last August, we went for a 10-day immersion at a place outside of Amsterdam.
Wow.
Yeah, which was an amazing retreat, actually. It's been a retreat center for a long time. It was intentionally built by Osho and the sannyasins.
Nice.
You might have seen a Netflix program about Oregon and the farm, and it was, you know, I have friends that were sannyasins or are sannyasins, you know, and so there was a lot of controversy around that whole thing and his 70 Rolls Royces and all of that
all
stuff.
of the words that he spoke a lot of beautiful words.
He did, yeah. So yeah, and the people that I have met that have come from, that were at the farm in Oregon and stuff like that, they're beautiful people. So I think they had a good idea. It just got a little bit corrupted at the top, which is how these things often go.
To be how things go. Yeah.
But it was a beautiful retreat center where we had that, and there was 60 cohort that were a part of the program from all over the world, and some people couldn't come for various reasons. And I think there was 52 that actually arrived. And so then we did 10 days of mushroom ceremonies and witnessing ceremonies and silent witnessing and stuff like that. It was in watching faculty work in big groups and stuff. And that was all new to me. Like, I don't have a rich history of ceremonial, ayahuasca or anything like that, which many people do that are in the plant medicine world. They have a lot of that. And a lot of people that did that course also come from the ceremonial world, but I don't, so it was very interesting for me to go and do that and see the type of healing that can happen in communitas when you're doing that group thing together. You know, and we were doing some deep dives as well. In Holland, psilocybin mushrooms are illegal, but psilocybin containing truffles are not. So, loopholes and things like that. Yeah. So that's so we went and worked with truffles that had been infused with Mexicana mushrooms, and I'm not too sure what the ratios were. So it's difficult to tell exactly what that would have been in grams in mushrooms. But we all started at 15 grams, I believe, with our kind of like lemon tech tea that we prepared. And then on the last day, we could go up to 40. And I don't know what, I went to 35 and that was good enough for me.
That's good enough. That's a lot.
Didn't go the extra 5.
Yeah, I know. I just thought I was being cautionary. Well, I got my ass served to me with 15. and
it's amazing.
3 days later, I was like,
Wow.
So
wow, I actually looked at the course, but it's right now it's full for the next year, and I put my name on the list to look at the course for the future for myself.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it was a tremendous course, a lot of insights on that, and now I've enrolled in another one. After that course, I was like, well, I could be a professional student now. Because it was twice a week online, and then we would Zoom, and I'd see all my cohort, and then we would be in contact, and on the platform there was a lot of communication and stuff. So it was great being immersed in that. And I was one of the few middle-aged white men that they let in, because unfortunately middle-aged white men are dominating the psychedelic scene. So it was more open to BIPOC, which was good. And so it was a really good course, and I really enjoyed it. But now I've started another one with Tandava Retreats in Tepoztlan, and it's a 5-MeO DMT training, which is a year online. And then we go to Tepoztlan for a 21-day immersion.
Wow.
So I'm super excited about that. And we've had a few classes in the course so far, and so I'm really enjoying being a student still.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
Yeah. So formal education is kind of that,
Well, that's really exciting. So my questions go from that to kind of the beginning, and I know that we have talked about this personally, but just for the sake of everybody that's going to be watching this, either live or on a replay, what brought you to working with psychedelics? Like, what was the fire that lit under you to bring you to this beautiful career?
Well, I guess really in some respects I was radicalized by psychedelics. I was brought up in the southwest of England, a rural area. I worked on a dairy farm, in rural Britain in the late 70s. If you were coming to leave school, we had a couple of options. You either carried on working on the dairy farm, or you went to college for not too sure what, or you went into the military. And so I was kind of destined to become a farm manager, a dairy farm manager, and I think I was supposed to go off to Kingston Moorwood Agricultural College or something like that. But I took a bunch of mushrooms with a friend of mine, and and all of that kind of got blown out of the water. I knew that wasn't really the path for me, and then we lived just down the road from Stonehenge, and during the 70s and the early 80s, there was a free festival that happened there. And in Britain, the police don't carry guns, which makes it a much more level playing field. And so we would have these festivals. Back then, there was a phenomenon known as the Peace Convoy, which was a bunch of people, which really came from, this is back in the Thatcher years of mass unemployment. So a lot of people went out from the inner cities and decided to go on the road, moving into buses and stuff. In many respects, it was kind of a phenomena like deadheads that you'd get in the States, all these people living in buses and stuff, and dreadlocks, and following the dead around and having parking lot festivals. We had the same thing. As we weren't following a band, we would just go around the country in squat land, like Crown Land, which they couldn't criminally throw people off because of traveller rights and things like that. And so then we'd have a festival. And the hardcore group of that lived in buses and trucks. And, I kind of got hitched up with the psychedelic circus, if you will. Before that, though, drugs, I fell into the world of drugs in my later teens. I became an IV drug user. And so I went down into the depths of IV drug use, not opiates, but stimulants. The first thing I ever shot was heroin. And I thought, wow, that was just fucking amazing. I better never do that again. And I rationalized it by just shooting speed because, it wasn't anywhere near as harmful. And in some ways, that's a product of the drug laws. I started smoking pot at first, and like, what's all this stuff about pot? There's nothing wrong with pot. And then took acid and stuff and psychedelics, and then kind of just got into harder drugs. Of course, I always knew to stay away from heroin, but I have ADHD, so as soon as I started, sorry.
They say that pot is the gateway, but really, it's the categorization of it.
It's the exit. It's the exit drug.
Because when people smoke it and they go, "Well, I've been lied to,"
yeah,
and then they, then it's, what else have I been lied to about?
Well, exactly. Yeah. So and when you're young, you fucking know everything. So
and you're invincible.
And I have ADHD as well. So as soon as I tried amphetamines, there was a connection there, focus and stuff like that. So I fell into heavy amphetamine use for a couple of years, and I kind of got out of that by joining the convoy. I went on the road, in 1985, winter of 84, 85, and carried on doing that until the end of 89, the very beginning of 90, and I left the country. So my drug, as I left Britain, I was away from psychedelics, and we used to party quite hard on the road. We used to drink a lot and take psychedelics at the same time. It's a bit of a, but there was quite a lot of alcohol in that culture, traveler culture and stuff. And so alcohol had been a problem. And then I stopped doing alcohol and got into opiates. And so because my alcohol was kind of getting out of hand.
No, and that's the real gateway drug, is alcohol into other drugs.
Oh, totally.
It was for me too. Like, I mean, like for me, I joined the army, and the army introduced me at the age of 17. It was part of the culture. When you're joined the army, you were taught two things: how to swear and how to drink.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And Britain also, in Britain, it's almost, alcohol is almost a cultural obligation.
Yeah.
It's the only drug where you have to have an excuse not to partake.
Not to partake. Yes.
Yeah.
It's been a brilliant program run on society.
Yeah. I mean, it's socially acceptable. If it was to come out tomorrow, people would be like, "Oh, what the fuck is this? Oh my god," you know.
Yeah.
And when we all think about any of the stupid shit that any of us have done, it's, you know, we can all trace it back to alcohol.
Usually to alcohol, yeah.
Normally, you know, yeah. I mean, as soon as if I drink, then you know, everything's on the table.
I agree. I had to let that lay quite a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, so anyhow, moving forward, I ended up in the Philippines. I had to get away from Britain. I went to Taiwan. I managed to stay pretty together there, and then I fell into over the counter opiates. And my family helped me out and got me to the Philippines. There's no opiates in the Philippines, and opiates had been a problem for me for a few years. And so, yeah, I started working in the Philippines as a dive master, and working in the tourist industry, not so good. You know, the drinking again was becoming a problem, and yeah, and then we had some bad years, and I switched from beer to rum, and then methamphetamine came into the picture and stuff, and it was in the Philippines that I found Alcoholics Anonymous, though, when I was living on Boracay. And so that was when I really started to make an effort. I will say I had gone back to Britain and done a stint in traditional rehabilitation, and was warned not to go back to the Philippines, but I did, and you know, made everybody's life a misery for a while. But that's where I kind of started. That's where sobriety, I would have periods of sobriety, you know, where I'd stay sober for a period of time and then fall back into the whole alcohol thing. Yeah. Moving forward, I met the girl that got me going to Alcoholics Anonymous. I ended up going back to the States with her old girlfriend, Nancy. And that's when I started going to Alcoholics Anonymous in Marin County, Fairfax, Marin County, which is just north of San Francisco. And so I landed in the psychedelic triangle. You know, West Marin there's a lot of psychedelic history out there, and so some LSD passed in front of me, and I knew about the work that had been done in Saskatchewan and Weyburn in the 50s, taking LSD around alcoholism. Mm-hmm. And so as this LSD passed in front of me, I grabbed some. And I'd been sober for 6 months, but that was my MO. I would get 6 months sobriety, and then I'd think I could have a beer and fuck it all up. And then I'd be drunk for another 6 months and throw everything out of the window, everything I'd managed to achieve in sobriety. So I was very caught up in this cyclical pattern, which is very common for people struggling with alcohol. And I took the LSD, and within about 4 hours, I knew that my relationship with alcohol was over. It really is simple as that, you know. Yeah. And it's not like could I say that I was cured by LSD? Not really. I took the LSD when I was the most open to receive what it had to show me at that time. So in many respects, I was on my knees kind of thing, because I was about to relapse. You know, I could feel it coming, and every relapse was worse than the last. And so I took the LSD, and it helped. I will say that I learned in Alcoholics Anonymous that I had ADHD, and I didn't know that until then. And so when I looked into it, and so then what would happen always is I would get sober, I would stop smoking pot, and my symptoms of ADHD also would compile, and then eventually I'd go drink. I'd go, fuck it, you know. Yeah. And so I used pot instead of methylphenidate or Adderall, and I never think about drinking or whatsoever. So cannabis has also been a part of my sobriety.
Absolutely.
So
it
hasn't been, you know.
It's an amazing tool.
It's a part of my sobriety as well.
Yeah. And for many people. Yeah. Like I say, it's the exit drug, right? So.
Yeah, I call it my gateway medication, because you know I found cannabis, which got me off of the opiates, and but it also led me to psilocybin, and psilocybin led me to being invited to watch a documentary that was supposedly going to be all about psilocybin, and it wasn't. It was about iboga, and iboga led me to, of course, this all eventually led me to both of you.
Right.
But it led me to doing the iboga, and then being introduced to the 5-MeO, you know, and then also educated about Cambo, which led me to being educated about cacao, and so now I've got a plan moving forward of different medicines that I'm just so excited to try. And if it wasn't for cannabis, I never would have found all of these medications. So for me, it is a gateway, but it's a gateway medication to other medications that all work together and are helping me stay sober and heal, you know, the injury of CPTSD.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with our peace convoy thing, there was always like in Britain, there's always been a link with India because it was part of the empire and everything like that. So it's always been a rite of passage, if you will, for the British hippie to go on a 6-month travel around India and Nepal and stuff like that. And so it's always been, it's always been viewed by me as a spiritual healing.
It's on my bucket list.
And there, you've got the sadhus and the holy men. They don't have any possessions apart from their begging bowl and their chillum, and then the staff, and then they go around. People give them hash and they dish out wise shit and stuff, and so
let's do it. Let's go be those people.
Okay.
All we gotta do is get wise. Let's go.
But yeah, I've always kind of viewed it as a healing, a healing compound, cannabis.
Yeah.
And then also we got a big connection with Jamaica. A lot of West Indians in Britain, so we've always had a big Rastafarian contingent in Britain, and reggae. It's been because Britain's a bit of a melting pot. We've always had that kind of. Pot's always kind of been in the background, So, yeah. It's interesting, Britain. Britain will be the last place that weed will be legalized. I think. They're kind of stuck in some weird conservative.
I don't know. Every
ways,
time it gets closed down in the United States, it falls short. So
yeah,
I don't know. I think they're in a race to be last.
Yeah, maybe. So I was just gonna say, after that LSD experience, I was like, well, fuck. Clearly, all alcoholics need to be taking LSD. And so I wasn't about to start giving LSD to alcoholics, which I have done since. But, that's when I got on the internet and then found out about iboga and ibogaine. Well, I already knew about ibogaine, but I didn't know about the addiction-breaking qualities of ibogaine. I've known about iboga since I got Plants of the Gods when I was 16. But then when I found out about its addiction-breaking qualities, I was like, well, I'm going to Canada and I'm going to open a ibogaine facility. And that was a long time ago. But the whole plan got put on the back burner because I met my ex-wife at a Burning Man party in San Francisco and then asked her to come with me to Canada, and everything. It took a lot longer to get out of the States and to get up here. So.
But you eventually got up here, and you eventually did make your dream happen.
Yeah. And that was an odd thing as well. I had an opiate relapse, and then planned to take iboga when I was in Britain, and so kind of organized that. I was going back for a family wedding. I had an opiate relapse just before, a couple of weeks before. And due to a bad back, started with some T3s. Boom! Before you know it, I had a habit again. Yeah. It took fucking days. And if I hadn't have taken iboga when I went back to Britain, I'm pretty sure I'd have come back and gone on methadone. So that's how quickly that kind of shit can happen with people.
Oh, it can get you in a snap of a finger. I mean, like,
yeah.
Especially if it's something that it has been an active addiction for you in the past. It's so easy.
It's like it's the wiring's just sitting there waiting to go zzz,
and
be reconnected.
Yeah.
And I explain that to my clients, like.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, and I noticed that myself. Like, like one of my addictions was alcohol, I absolutely loved it. It very easy to get. It was legal. Once I hit 17, actually, it was like I've been a tall, big girl, ever since, and super easy for me to get. And our cannabis stores, our legal cannabis stores here in Nova Scotia are in the backs of liquor stores. And me being a fool thinking, I can go to the cannabis store. Well, I tried for probably about 4 months in a row, and I realized that I had to stop because, man, I was getting bitchy about it, like really. And it's like, oh, that's me wanting to drink, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
So I had to stop.
Chicken triggers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're more exposed to triggers, when we're, put in stressful situations and stuff like that, if we're down, depressed. That's why self-care is so important.
Absolutely.
To be taking care of ourselves, to not put ourselves in those kind of positions.
It is break time. It is time to medicate. So Steve and I will be right back with our guest, Garyth, here on the Mushie Moment on paceradio.net and cbgtv.com.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
In February of 2022, the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club and Ted Smith were fined $6.5 million. This for helping 8,500 patients with access to medical cannabis. In our interview with Ted, he spoke to us about how people can donate to help in an upcoming court challenge. And here is part of that interview. From what I've seen lately, I believe that you've got something that you're trying to do as far as fundraising to deal with this next court challenge.
For now, people can write checks directly to Jack Lloyd Law Corporation or send e-transfers to save the VCBC at gmail.com. I guess those are the two easiest ways for people to help right now.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you watching television on Roku, Fire, maybe an Apple TV or even Chromecast? If you are, then download the Boxcast app and search for CBG TV.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Welcome back to the Mushie Moment. Oh, that was a great medication break. I don't know about you guys, but we are here, and obviously, well, I got you both giggling with that one. And we're going to head right into the second half of Mushie Moment and chat more with our guest here, Garyth. And Garyth, I really want to talk about the work that you do. I mean, like I have been honored to be able to come and have my retreat, my ceremonies with you. So, but I was even though I needed it, I was a fairly easy case. Like, I mean, I was not an active addiction. And I know that a lot of your clientele is when they first come to you.
Yeah.
And they require a much different type of retreat than I had.
Yeah, treatment. Yeah. Yeah, well, things are different now. When I first got into this game, I'm going into my 11th year now of working with Ibogaine, and things are quite different. Now we have a fucking fentanyl crisis going on. You know, thank you, drug war. Like if we'd had heroin dispensaries or heroin clubs where people could go and get clean heroin 10 years ago, we wouldn't be in this fucking mess. Seriously, we wouldn't. We wouldn't. A lot of people that they didn't want to start using fentanyl, but that's all that was available. I know old people that have been using heroin for years, and they still had a source, and there was one crew that was still running something from Burnaby, and if you really knew where to get, you could still get some heroin. You can't anymore. It's a fucking free for all out there, and so anybody that says that drugs shouldn't be regulated, they're just supporting death and cartels, because that's what's going on. Like the shit is going on out there. Do you know what I mean? So
no, I'm a purveyor of safe supply. I don't really like what the government's doing right now, where they're pushing the funding to safe supply, but they're pulling it from recovery to kind of make that happen. And it's like, no, for every dollar going to safe supply, you got to put $1 into recovery funding.
Right. Yeah. And they're just not,
No.
And again, we're going back to stigma and stuff like that. We had COVID and they shut the whole place down. Do you know what I mean? And I think we lost more people due to overdoses than we did.
30% higher overdoses, 30% higher suicides. Yes, it's been brutal.
We're losing like six people a day in the province or something at the moment now. It's just getting worse and worse every month. So that's made our situation a lot different. And also how we work with people, because now somebody that had a $50 a day drug habit or even $100 a day drug habit years ago, we would stabilize them and it would be maybe 300-400 milligrams of morphine. Now it's like 1,500. I spoke to a guy not so long ago that's on 3,000 milligrams of morphine. Like 200 is what they like to give you maximum if your body has been smashed to pieces in a car accident. So 3,000, that's pretty crazy.
But if everything you've been doing is car fentanyl and you're
then that's what you need, and they're just trying to keep people alive, So and the car fentanyl, of course, drug war. They send 5 grams through the mail, mix it with a bunch of buff, and now you got your kilo of dope.
Yeah.
Crazy. So, but fortunately, due to the safe supply, we can send people down to the RAT clinic, the Rapid Access Addiction Clinic, and get them on Dilaudid and morphine. But for some people, that's a real jump down. That's a lot to jump down onto, because of the ferociousness of the narcotic. These fentanyl analogs. Yeah.
One of my daughters actually tried, and it wasn't enough for her. She's
right
about it.
And I fully understand that. So it's also meant that we can't treat some people, because now the benzos are up in the mix as well. So it's become a very difficult procedure, unless it's medically supported, and even then. A lot of places aren't doing it the way we do it, which is slowly. What we do is we stabilize people on morphine. Then I use a certain amount of Ibogaine in the day. I start very small. It's just a pinky shake, not even a handshake. But every time I drop Ibogaine into somebody, their receptors are healed to a certain degree. So what happens with us and the way we work, it's actually much safer, because you're not dumping a large amount of Ibogaine into somebody and trying to knock all of that opiate out in one go, which quite frankly is, you have to use so much Ibogaine to do one flood dose, and the higher doses, there's more risks involved. So the way we do it is a much slower way, but also what we do is we apply Ibogaine instead of an opiate dose in the morning. And then the receptors are are healed to a certain amount. So that 4 hours that they're on Ibogaine would normally be an opiate dose. And that happens every morning. And every day that I do that, they need less opiates. So it's like rapid tolerance in reverse. But at the same time, Ibogaine is filling up in the body. And so we don't do a flood dose. What we do is called saturation. So we saturate somebody with Ibogaine over a period of time, normally over 2 weeks. Can be longer. We just worked with somebody from the States who he needed 1,500 milligrams of morphine to be stabilized, and he'd been using that black tar, which is full of fentanyl, and so and he'd been doing it for years, and so his receptor sites were quite damaged, and it took a lot of work to unfuck him, if you will, and repair those receptor sites. But because he'd done 2 flood doses in Mexico before, and relapsed after both of them after a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
He had started getting pause, post-acute withdrawal syndrome, get a few cravings in the head, and boom, So it was money wasted. And he came and worked with us, and we saturated him, and he's rocking it now.
Nice.
He's about 6 weeks into his 6 weeks since his last opiate or something like that. And normally that lasts for about a 3-month period, especially the amount of Ibogaine that we dump into people. And then that gets stored in fat tissues and then slowly leaks out. So, yeah. So he's, by the time he left us and with some boosters, he had Ibogaine coming out of his fucking ears. But that's what it was needed,
Yeah.
And so that's we're trying to get together with some other people now and work on this protocol and have that go out internationally, because quite often, especially in detoxes and the doses you have to use with Ibogaine, it's a bit of a hot potato, like as a psychedelic, most people are like, I don't want it, you have it. They know it does great work, but because it carries a lot of power to do good, with that power, there's potential for it to do a lot of harm, and people have been killed by Ibogaine. It can be cardiotoxic if it's given to the wrong people at the wrong time, and often the people we're working with are deep in addiction as well, so they're not physically well. So the whole Ibogaine and opiate thing has become a lot more complicated due to the fucking drug war and the ferocious. The drug war is going to be a complete failure. We should know that prohibition doesn't work. How did it work for alcohol? Didn't work at all.
No.
And the price back then, as I remember reading, a shot of whiskey was 7 cents before prohibition. At the height of prohibition, 75 cents. And it's the same thing with the drugs. Same. They try to prohibit alcohol in places like India, and then villages mash up a brew, and everybody dies.
Yeah,
that's prohibition.
Yeah,
you can't stop human behavior.
No.
No.
A question I get asked a lot from people that like once they hear a little bit of my story, and of course I was not in active addiction when I came to you, so we didn't have to worry about anything like that.
Right.
But I mean, if somebody comes to you and they're in active addiction and they say, okay, I'm ready, help me. What do you require of them? Like, do they, you obviously have to get them off the fentanyl or the carfentanil that they're on.
Yeah.
Before you can treat them with Ibogaine. So what does that look like?
It depends. It really depends. We always meet people where they're at, not where we'd fucking like them to be.
Yeah.
that's not reality.
No, and it's not helpful to them either.
That's the position that society comes from, which is bullshit. But we meet people where they're at, and it really depends on the addictions. We used to be able to say we'd take everybody. When we first started working, we had a doctor that worked for us and everything, but the College of Physicians took her away. There had been some problems here in Canada. There had been a few hospitalizations and stuff. There was more people working with Ibogaine. And so I understand why they took that stance,
So what about if I have some friends that have heart issues with heart function. They have low heart function happening, etc.
Yeah.
Now, I know that, dosage and that can have things happen, but what about the type of, like, for somebody with a low heart function, even below percent heart function?
It dictates how we work with somebody. It's very seldom that somebody comes to us and I go, sorry, can't work with you. Well, it does happen on occasion. It's normally around the QT interval, or something else that would be, but in many respects, the EKG dictates to us how we're going to work with somebody.
So when you get that info, would you look at it and go, okay, we're going to do ibogaine this way, or we're probably better off doing mushrooms through this way? Or
sometimes, yeah, on occasion, because that's why we do those tests, to see if it's safe to work with somebody. So on occasion that has been like that, or it changes the way I work with somebody. We had somebody come for 3 weeks who was actually on a very low dose of opiates, and we got him down with the sodium ascorbate beforehand. And so there's this great plan that we went through, and he had an extended QT, and he had to come off of an antidepressant. Well, the antidepressant was pulling out his QT a bit anyhow as well, which is electrical firing around the heart. It's one of the main things we're kind of looking for with ibogaine. And it just meant that we had to work very low dose ibogaine with him. So he was just doing a very small amount every day, and then he would go back on morphine, and every day his morphine would go down and down and down, and so he was off. But had he gone to a place in Mexico, they would have looked at his EKG and gone, no, sorry, we can't work with you. Because they don't know how to work the way we work. It's all about flood dosing. So some people in certain parameters of flood dosing would be refused. They would say, sorry, we just can't work with you. Whereas, and now I learned how to do this through basically my ibogaine mentor is a woman called Claire Wilkins, and she kind of took me under her wing a long time ago. And I was still doing everything, how things were done traditionally with ibogaine, and that's how most of the clinics operate. And then as soon as I came in contact with her, she's like, oh, no, because I had people that I was looking at their EKG and I'm going, I can't work with this person. And she goes, of course you can. It's just about how you work with this person. And so, we can work with people that other people would go, no. We detoxed a 73-year-old lady off of 20 years of morphine.
Wow.
Again, that was a low and slow as well because of her age, But
okay, and how much work? What would you say is your percentage between working with people through addictions and working with people through trauma?
Well, most of the people that have addiction, that's just a manifestation of their trauma anyhow.
Yeah.
So they're all, and most people, if they're coming to ibogaine, they're not whistling Dixie anyhow. It's not. It's So in our forte really is opiates. We don't do a whole lot of psychospiritual stuff. Patrick is away now. He's down. But Cindy had Patrick come and work with us the first time. He's away at the moment. I do have somebody else now that's going to be working with us, so we might be doing a little bit more psychospiritual stuff. But for the most part, our forte has been opiate detoxes.
Okay.
So, that's our kind of specialty. It's funny. We have different friends working, in ibogaine in different places, and clients tend to end up with who they're supposed to be working with. There's something, I've got a friend that does more stuff like stimulants and Parkinson's and things like that. So, and that's their specialty, whereas ours is opiates. So, and we find that the way that we work with opiates as well, it can be hard because it's long. People are taking ibogaine for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And every day that they take it, they go through a period of introspection, and it's quite a lot of heavy introspection in the beginning. But stuff will arise and arise and arise. And we do work, in the morning and in the afternoon. We're more often than not out in the forest or something, to integrate, what has come up, or processing the morning's
Speaking of
material.
integration.
Yeah.
Speaking of integration.
Yes.
What is your view on the importance and how one should go about doing it?
Well, integration is a big hot topic, and I'm right in the middle of a book of integration at the moment. And so with Ibogaine, it's almost like you've got a built-in integration therapist that comes along for the ride or something. And that's just the nature of Iboga and Ibogaine. There's a sense of dealing, interfacing with plant intelligence, and that comes afterwards, And so, the integration phase of anything is really important, and in many respects, more important than the session itself. It's what you do with the material that rises.
That's
often
what I found with my own. I did in the jungles of Mexico, and I've spent the last year and a bit still processing.
Yeah, still integrating. So I know. So it's a hot topic and a massive process, and different ways of doing that. And it's a very personal thing as well. If you get a lot of information and you just ignore the information, then what's the fucking point you're doing the work? It's not work. It's like looking at, it's having a high experience or whatever, and that's more recreational. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that at all. Psychedelics can be used in a lot of different ways. If you get together with some friends and you all have a good time and laugh and stuff, that could be viewed as recreational, but it can also be viewed as spiritually uplifting. And when people are going to raves and things like that, that's communitas, that's mass healing when people are all together like that. So the whole psychedelic thing, and of course as you go deeper and your intentions behind something might produce a lot of different material, and that's where maybe your integration might be more important.
In the healing end, my first 30 years, it was just fun and having good time.
Yeah, but sure, but then some stuff comes out of that. I remember going to Stonehenge, and this is before I was actually hooked up with all of those people, and spending time there, and then coming away and going, wow, shooting drugs is really fucking stupid. Why the fuck were you doing that? And that's after going to Stonehenge and taking a bunch of LSD for a week or something, And so through that process, that was part of the integration and learning experiences. That was like, you have got to stop doing that. That's bullshit. Why are you doing that to yourself? I didn't get that information in a NA meeting.
No.
Got it from LSD.
Yeah.
So the integration process can take a long time from certain experiences.
For me, with Cindy, with Cindy, a lot of times we'll be chatting on the phone, and we'll get onto a conversation, and through that conversation, I'll find me integrating data that I brought back from Mexico that hadn't found its place to come out yet.
Right.
Yeah. And then he's trying to give me a piece of advice, and all of a sudden realizes that he's actually talking to himself.
Way more than it should be.
Funny how that is.
Yeah.
But it works both ways. He listens to himself, but it it also works for a lot of the stuff that I have had to deal with, and it gets me thinking. So
after our mushroom ceremonies in Holland, the next day we would sit in circle and pass the stick and talk about what came up for us, and that's really the beginning of that integration process.
Yeah.
It was really. Yeah.
And that's why you take us all out for walks when we come back from our Iboga trip and have lovely chats with us, is to get us talking about it and integrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And more stuff comes to us in the forest than it does when we're sitting in front of the TV or something like that. You know, when we're out in nature, we are
when
nature.
we're in nature, we remember
you know.
that we are nature. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, we go nature bathing. You know.
Yeah. No,
I know some people. I say to people, you know, they think that I'm getting them out for walks and stuff because it's exercise when they're coming off of opiates, which it is. I mean, that's important. But really, I'm getting them out so they're in the fucking forest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get that 100%. That's you know, if you try and harmonize with humanity, it's a little dysfunctional. The song is not harmonious right now. So just go harmonize with nature because it's resonating in the right place. It's a nice harmonious place to be.
Yeah. I received a toy for Christmas that makes harmonizing with nature like just absolutely amazing. I've got a little speaker that you can hook up to plants and and listen to them, and it's pretty spectacular.
That's so cool.
She's bringing it with her when she comes out. We're gonna do some recording.
We are.
Go out to Lighthouse Park. I bet you get some good shit going on there. That's one place we really like to go to as well, because you're right by the water. We're kind of away from the city. You can see the city off in the distance. And we're in there with some old growth and stuff. It's pretty untouched, you know. And that's an amazing. Had some amazing people have had amazing epiphanies there when we're sitting on the rocks. The eagles are up in the trees, you know.
Yeah.
Sea lions might be going past or something. It's just beautiful.
Magical.
Yeah. Healing.
Very.
Yeah,
very healing. I mean, nature has a way of doing that. I mean, it's also the force that has given us this medicine. You know, we, you know, without nature, we wouldn't have iboga, we wouldn't have cannabis, we wouldn't have, you know, mushrooms, we wouldn't have DMT. Like these things would not be here. You know, and I've learned as I've gone along that a lot of this stuff we produce in our bodies already. You know, so we're only augmenting what our bodies are already producing, because, you know, we need a stronger, you know, iboga presence or cannabis presence, or, you know, we need that. And as humans, because, you know, we're deficient, because, you know, again, it comes from, you know, everything becoming criminalized and prohibition. And we were defunct of all of this stuff for so long that our bodies are just reacting to that. And, you know, and out comes, you know, PTSD, or, you know, stronger, like is actually able to take hold faster, you know, which leads to addictions. And we have diseases that, you know, just are running rampant, that if we could just get cannabis and, you know, other natural medicines back into our daily lives, we'd be a lot healthier as a society.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's happening.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely, it's happening, and it's building speed as well.
Yeah, building speed and gaining strength, and I think it comes from people being willing to stand up and speak out. But unfortunately, we are probably at the end of our time here. So I mean, that is our show. That is the Mushie moment for today, January 24th, 2023, coming to you live. You know, from all across Canada as it may be. Thank you so much, Garyth, for joining us.
Yeah,
thank you for having me.
I am, you know, always willing, always loving a chat with you, and always very thankful every time I get to. And for our friends at Legacy 420 and Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, that is our Mushie moment. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Garyth.
Yeah, thanks.
This was a great show.
Yeah, it was.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Much love.
Bye.
Much love.
Cheers.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more. We've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.